Hal Raines, I want to bring you in here on the wider set of theater that we're seeing. I mean, the president is clearly into these briefings, even as so many around him say it's hurting himself, it's making him center stage. He's lost the rally around the flag effect. He's been a hotbed of misinformation. But he clearly is into it. Here he was talking about Governor Cuomo potentially coming to the White House tomorrow. Take a look.
The governor's they're getting it together in New York. A lot of good things are happening in New York. And I think the governor's going to come in to see us tomorrow. He's coming to the Oval Office tomorrow afternoon. Andrew is going to be coming in with some of his people. So we look forward to that.
What is important for folks to keep in mind as the president continues to hold these briefings and use it as a kind of a place to settle scores, apart from their stated purpose of providing a medical update?
Well, last week at this time, Ari, you and I think, were tempted to laugh to keep from crying about that absurd infomercial that the president showed. Tonight, I feel that we've been exposed, the American people have been exposed to a sinister whirlwind of double talk. And it's designed to guide the American people and the press away from the central question that comes up at the end of every one of these briefings. When is this president going to step forward and do his job? Now, tonight, we know that job, as most nights, has to do with national security. What is needed here is a president who orders a national crash program to give us the testing results that the governors and our health officials need to make the critical decision about whether to reopen the economy. And we have to understand that that is a life and death decision out in the country. And so it makes it doubly sinister that he's fomenting unrest about scientific expertise. Now, let me drill down just a little on presidential leadership. I think if you had a Dwight Eisenhower or an LBJ or a JFK or a Nixon, or I dare say President Obama, we would have long since seen a mass mobilization involving the Pentagon, the pharmaceutical, and the medical equipment industries to give us the information that we need to know whether we can safely open the economy. Now, 150,000 tests a day, when we need several million a day just for our healthcare workers in the hospitals, is a national tragedy. It's a disaster waiting to draw us all into a whirlwind. And, you know, I heard the president say the states and the governor should be doing the testing, not the federal government. Well, maybe, but what we all know is missing is a federal ramrod to get this testing done. So I think we're on a toboggan to disaster if we keep seeing actions like that taken by the Georgia governor today.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that it's just difficult for us all to go through. You wish that we could just focus on fighting this deadly disease, which is bad enough. But you have the president acting in this way. And Brian Williams in our special coverage was pointing this out. And I want to play it for folks at home who may not have seen it just briefly to get your fact check on the other side, Hal Raines. The president, while literally tens of thousands of people are dead in this country, and this is real, went out there and either really believes this terrible thing or is just scheming and lying, hoping it'll rile people up. But either way, goes out there and says with a straight face, the concern about preventing the next 40,000 deaths is an effort to get him, Donald Trump. Take a look.
Remember, it was all ventilators. And the reason it was all ventilators, they said there's no way he'll ever be able to catch this one. And not only did we catch it, we are now the king of ventilators all over the world. And that wasn't playing well. So then they said, testing. Oh, we'll get them on testing. Well, testing is much easier than ventilators. It used to be ventilators. Now it's testing.
Howell, you look at that. What do you even say?
Well, it's all about him, isn't it? And it's not about these people who are having to say goodbye by electronic means. And it was a giveaway with Trump's egotism and narcissism is we saw today in his comments about the governors. His fragile ego is such that if he's afraid of someone, you see one of two reactions. He swings at them, as with Governor Pritzker and Governor Hogan, two men doing a demonstrably good job and not having the equipment that the federal government needs to give them, and pandering to Andrew Cuomo, who he senses is emerging as a national figure because the American people are desperate for expert advice from their political leaders about protecting their health.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.